Welcome, brethren, to our presentation tonight. It's called Questions from the Field. In the last few weeks, we've got some questions that have come along the different media outlets that we have, email, Facebook, and our websites. And so we thought we'd address these questions. They're very pertinent, and we can learn from them. So before you continue, please pause the video, claim the promise of John 16:13, and he shall guide us into all truth. Let's begin. Our prayer thought is, there's no excuse for anyone in taking the position that there is no more truth to be revealed, and that all our exposition of Scripture are without error. The fact that certain doctrines have been held as truth for many years by our people is not a proof that our ideas are infallible. Age will not make error into truth, and truth can afford to be fair. No doctrine will lose anything by close investigation. So, brethren, we can see quite a lot of counsel from this one very well known and very applicable to our present truth message. And that is that we can afford to be fair. If somebody challenges us, then by all means, let them bring their evidence, and we can go into it, because those that are stubborn and say, "Oh, my way is the way," and don't tell me about it, I don't want to hear it, all that's not being fair, brethren, and it's being very stubborn, very hard-headed, and lacking humility. So we're encouraging brethren to ask questions. If you don't understand something, by all means, inquire about the position that you see, and maybe you disagree with what we put out, and we can investigate together and show that either what we've expounded is true or your position is not true. So either way, we can look at it fairly, and this is the way to go. Unfortunately, many of our present truth believers are high and mighty. They don't want to get into a regular discussion, and you bring all the references that you say, "What about this?" and they will ignore it, or they'll say, "Well, yeah, but what about this one?" So they don't want to harmonize, which we're told in this message that we must harmonize. So God's message will be harmonized if we take the effort to put the different pieces together and see how they harmonize. So let's go on to the next slide. All right, so the questions to be addressed. Number one, why is it so important to explain end-time event timelines? Number two, can you give a clear explanation of track 1, page 38, and its importance? Number three, can you give a list of Davidian organizations that teach the importance of adhering to our fundamental beliefs, as well as teach that the new codes are not part of the bowl, golden bowl? What is the next main worldwide event to happen according to prophecy? So these are all really great questions, and they're ones that we're going to address right now. All right, why is it so important to explain end-time event timelines? Now, before we begin, that is a question that comes up to us once in a while. Well, why are you guys at pre-11th hour, and why are other Davidians so concentrated on the end-time events? There's a lot more important things, Reformation, and, talking about, the different prophecies that are going to happen, but why do you concentrate on end-time event timelines? Why is that so important? Well, there's several reasons. The primary reason that the rod itself shows us its importance. Now, keep that in mind. It's not us that are just declaring event timelines to be correct. It is inspiration. Now, how do we know that? Well, we can go to our Davidian fundamental beliefs, right? And if you look at all of them, you'll basically see a historical end-time event timeline. So look at there. The rod message is telling us, because it's foundational, it's tenets of our faith, that the timeline is important and that we have to get it right. And unfortunately, this is one of the big problems in Davidian, brethren, is that as we'll go through this presentation, we're all over the board on end-time event timelines, and we'll go into it more. Now, another reason is that the 5 charts that we have in the message, you can see them in the picture here, is they have pathways, right? And each of those pathways are event timelines. One event, then the next one happens, then the next one after that, and so forth. So if inspiration is going to give the timeline importance in our fundamental beliefs and give 5 of our charts that have timelines in them and their event one after another showing the importance of it, well, that tells us that don't let anybody tell you that by proclaiming and discussing and showing reports of in-time timeline events is not important. That's false. The message is very clear. It is important. All right, number 2, can you give a clear explanation of track 1, page 38, and its importance? Now, that is a very great reference, and it says, and it came to pass while they were slaying them that I was left, and that I fell upon my face and cried and said, Ah, Lord God, wilt thou destroy all the residue in Israel in thy pouring out of thy fury upon Jerusalem? Then he said unto me, the iniquity of the house of Israel and Judah is exceedingly great, and as for me also, mine eye shall not spare, neither will I have pity. Ezekiel 9, verse 8 to 10. And then the rod goes on to say this. It's very important that we catch this, brother. After the sighing, crying ones were marked, which is not, or let me repeat that again, which is not to be understood as being consummated in its entirety worldwide before the slaying follows anywhere. The slaughter completed and the matter reported, and the Lord spake unto the man clothed with linen, and said, Go in between the wheels under the cherub, and fill thy hand with coals of fire from between the cherubs and cherubims, and scatter them over the city. Ezekiel 10:2. And this is again found in track 1, page 38. So let's break this down. Number 1, the context is the Ezekiel 9 timeline. So we heard, from other people that said, oh, this might not be talking about Ezekiel 9. It's talking about the worldwide sealings. No. We have to take everything in context. So we clearly see it's discussing Ezekiel 9. And we are not to understand the marking sealing of the 144,000 is all completed worldwide prior to Ezekiel 9. This one major point is so often ignored, and false teachings spring from its ignorance. Number 3, the reference supports and reaffirms the many, many rod references. I don't remember how many, brother, but I think it's close to 40 in the message that quotes Testimony to Ministers, page 445, and that basically says, and that's Rod Basic 101, the 144,000 sealing and Ezekiel 9 are one and the same event. All right, so we have preponderance of evidence showing that the sealing is in conjunction with Ezekiel 9. So this gets important because there's many end time and we'll go over that, many end-time event timelines that show a separation between the two. First the sealing, then later Ezekiel 9. Where are they getting that from, brother? They're certainly not getting it from the rod message. Number 3, can you give a list of Davidian organizations that teach the importance of adhering to our fundamental beliefs as well as teach that the new codes are not part of the bowl? Well, brother, I hate to say it, but of all the major organizations in the movement right now, we can think of only 2, and that's Pre-11th Hour Ministry and UPA7.org. Now, keep in mind, these 2 ministries don't only talk the talk, they walk the walk. By that I mean, if you go to Mountaindale, Waco, Salem, Bashan, Wave Chief, all these guys, they'll say, oh, yeah, we believe in the fundamental beliefs. Of course we do. Yes, we do. But you know what? They don't walk the walk. They teach otherwise. All right? So Pre-11th Hour UPA say they believe it, and they teach that they believe it. Those that don't, well, Mountaindale, an example is Jacob's Time of Trouble comes before, and the new codes they believe in. Waco, the same thing. Salem, the same thing. Bashan, we're not so sure about their placement of Jacob's Time of Trouble, but they do believe in the new codes, and so that eliminates the fact that this group is holding on to a good, as proven, solid error from the new codes. Wave sheaf, well, total confusion, and we won't have to go further on that one. Number 4. What is the next main worldwide event to happen according to prophecy? Well, according to pre-11th hour, Zechariah 14, World War over Israel. That's the next big prophetic event. UPA 7, the same thing. Zechariah 14, World War over Israel. Now, Mountaindale says that the Assyrian Confederacy is the next big thing to expect. Saints are to be sealed, and then they come before the courts to answer for their faith. All of this before Zechariah 14 war. All right? So this is what they teach. And the same thing with Waco. The same thing with Salem. The same thing with Bashan. Wave sheaf, well, they teach a strange fire. Here's what they teach. The first Ezekiel 9 comes to Davidians only and produces a 24,000 number. All right? Then they go out to the SDA church and gather the rest of the 144,000. Then comes the second Ezekiel 9 to the SDA church. I just am amazed how far that group has left the foundational beliefs of us Davidians. But we can see, brethren, that only 2 organizations that we know of teach the correct next end time event. Zechariah 14, World War over Israel, and we don't believe in this Assyrian Confederacy happening next, where the officials are going to come after the 144,000, bring them into court, harass them, and have them answer for their faith. This is all Don Adair strange fire doctrine that has been taught over the years to leaders of those organizations. All right. So why does Mountaindale, Waco, Salem, and Bashan are wrong on the next events to come? Why is that? Well, before we answer this, you notice we left out Wave sheaf. As their ideas are so far-fetched and ridiculous, we will not give them credence and mention them. You will remember that we discussed track 1, page 38, that showed the sealing of the 144,000 cannot be completed until Ezekiel commences. Further, Testimonies to Ministers, page 445, says Ezekiel 9 and the sealing of the 144,000 are one and the same event. Again, we got close to 40, if I recall, references confirming that, brother. So way preponderance of evidence according to the message. So no event can happen in between the two except the 7 days of heavenly silence, and that's Revelation 8:1. So we see that you can't show Assyrian Confederacy being brought for the councils and all that baloney as happening between Ezekiel 9 and the sealing and then Ezekiel 9. It can't happen. Now this being the rod's position as brought by the 2 prophets, Ellen White and Brother Hotto, how can the sealing take place prior to Ezekiel 9 and thus allow time for the 144,000 to be called into court? Further, the message says the saints, 144,000, will flee to the Holy Land upon the closure of Zechariah 14 war, which is when Ezekiel 9 comes. See track 14. Also, we're going to put a link describing the saints flee into the Holy Land and the references that support that. So we see, again, preponderance of evidence that the sealing and Ezekiel 9 are one and the same event. There can be no, prophetic events happening in between those two. Bottom line, they get themselves twisted up like a puzzle, throwing out important parts of the prophetic puzzle for long-held false ideas, sprung largely from Don Adair. Adair got many of his ideas from the new codes published by Florence Hotto. So we can see the timeline of where these false errors came from. They first came from Florence Hotto, who produced the new codes because she had an agenda for the 1260-day antitypical prophecy, and therefore Adair soaked it up. And he, to this day, he passed away, but his organization in Waco and Mountaindale and Bashan, they all believe a lot of this stuff that came from Don Adair. So we have to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves in understanding this, and be careful not to fall in this trap. Well, brethren, that concludes this short presentation. We wanted to address some of these issues so that you can know why end-time event timelines are so important. And again, for a great chart, you can see the harvest probation chart. It sets in clear motion the events in a simplistic way with the symbols. All right, we know that you can't rearrange those symbols. We heard from a brother the other day, and he echoed the same thing that I believe the leader of Autumn Ministry has echoed, that, well, you see those symbols, they're there, but that was 1931. Brother Houteff came along and had more light later, so you're free to readjust those symbols or not really pay attention because they've been changed. Oh, brother, no. We can't do that. For one of the greatest reasons is the 1953 Hunter's Manual tells us that for the teachers, they are to pull out that chart and teach. If you want to teach about the beast, you pull out the harvest chart and you teach one event following the other. So Brother Houteff did not change his mind on that harvest probational chart timeline. He stuck to it all the way to the end of the ministry, 1953. So we hope you've been blessed, and until next time, may the Lord continue to guide you into all truth.